I think a significant pivot is coming. You're going to start seeing a lot of people admit and tell you that all this while they thought that Xbox was doing something really interesting. One of my audience members actually pointed this out. They said, I think I've seen how this whole thing is going to turn out. Very soon, people are going to pivot and say, we all knew that Xbox was doing this, when all this while they've downplayed every single Xbox's step. And then they're going to come out at the end of the day and say, well, it's because of PlayStation that Xbox did these and these and these things. I was reading that comment and I was kind of thinking to myself, that's one of the craziest things that I've seen is people constantly shifting the goalpost and constantly downplaying moves until those moves eventually blow up or blow up in their faces. Then they come out and say, well, this is not such a big deal. We all knew it, but that's how they do it. This is a rumor, and this is also another rumor. These are just two rumors that I think if there's any shred of credibility to it, or if this has even been thought about in the coffers of some corporate boardroom or within a meeting somewhere, then I think we're heading to a gaming industry that, for the most part, many people are not going to be able to recognize what their gaming looks like anymore if they've stuck with the old way of doing things. Xstasis1 posted this particular tweet, and they said, we analyzed the rumor. Could Game Pass be coming to Steam? In the last few hours, the networks have been alight with possible move by Microsoft at a January event alongside Lenovo, Valve executives, and if we review past statements, it makes quite a bit of sense. In 2022, Valve CEO Gabe Newell himself stated in an interview with PC Gamer that he'll be open to collaborating with Microsoft to bring Game Pass to Steam. Let's not forget, EA Play is already available on the platform, which opens the door for a similar integration for Game Pass. Are we closer to this announcement than we think? For now, these are just rumors, but seeing how the pieces are moving, do you believe it? This is not a matter of belief to me. EA Play has always been on Steam. EA Play is on Game Pass. And if Game Pass made its way to Steam, Microsoft and Xbox would not be really bothered by it, seeing as that's been their customer for, at this point, 8 years or more. Remember when we were talking about Xbox making strong strides on the PC platform because that market is actually just a beast. You got to look at the data to say why are they going there? And the only answer that you will get is green is there. Is there green there? Meaning, are there people that would actually engage in the service? The answer is yes. In fact, I was surprised when EA Play went to Steam, and I remember laughing at it. I was like, EA, everybody hates EA. However, there are some people that still play EA games. Do y'all remember that when Dragon Age the Veilguard was getting dragged, it ended up being like one of the top played games on Steam at the year? It's going to make it, I think, into probably close to the gold or even silver list in terms of gross revenue, just because of the sheer amount of people who were playing the game concurrently at launch. EA may be this big bad wolf, but don't be fooled. There are people who play their games like crazy. So Microsoft looking at this potential partnership, it works out for all of these people, all these players at the end of the day. They all get to benefit, and even Ubisoft right now seems like they're the ones that are late to the party. So, could this be a thing? Could this be the new direction for a lot of these companies moving into the subscription services? I think if they can do the calculation, if they can run the numbers, and if they can leverage older games, it probably makes a lot of sense for them. Another rumor comes into play. Now, this is not necessarily a rumor because this is actually something that is reported by the BBC in their gaming side. So this says Sega considering Netflix-like game subscription service, written by Tom Gerken, technology reporter. Apparently, Sega is considering launching its own Netflix-like subscription service for video games, a move which will accelerate gaming's transition towards streaming. There are already a number of similar services on the market, such as Xbox Game Pass and PlayStation Plus, which see gamers pay a monthly fee to access a range of titles rather than owning it outright. Let me go ahead and tell you guys something. You see, we were talking about the Kadokawa and Sony possible merger, right? Now, this was very, very interesting because some people had already posited that the reason that they're doing this is they want Sony to come in and help them fend off a potential hostile takeover. Other people are saying Sony cannot afford Kadokawa and all that. Now, whatever the truth is, we don't really know. All we know is they ended up forming a strategic alliance, and Sony pretty much, acquired 10% of the stake in the company. Now, The rumors may have also pushed back the hostile takeover, just the fact that Sony had even shown interest and then just bought more shares. That was probably all strategy being done. And I know people want to reduce it to, Sony is broke and PlayStation can't afford it. If PlayStation wanted Kadokawa, they would be able to raise investor funding if they had enough investor confidence. That would not have been a problem. I know people will probably think that's crazy. But when all is said and done, one thing that I do know is PlayStation understands that they cannot put together a service like Game Pass because they don't have the funding to be able to support that much content or acquire that much content. And you can see Kadokawa was basically more of the anime and then just From Software. They can't buy From Software alone. Kadokawa is not selling in piecemeal. And within Kadokawa, From Software being the main thing is not really worth an acquisition for a gaming library that will be able to match what Xbox is doing right now. So in the streaming space, it goes back to those documents that leaked during the Insomniac hack. There are some documents that y'all didn't see. I constantly show you the one from Jez Corden, but like I said, that's the only one that another news outlet and other news outlets published. But there are so many others that were out there, and one of them, Sony basically said that they did not have, they basically admitted that, being able to support that kind of content was beyond their financial reach, and they came up with some other ideas like partnering with some other, developers and publishers to be able to leverage some stuff for PS Plus. But nothing like that is in the works for them in terms of Game Pass. Now, their old games, they can definitely put it all on PS Plus Essential and, whatever, which they've already done. But again, the amount of share content that Xbox has already by default beaten them. Just by default. By the time they finish launching 2025 and 2026 calendar, PlayStation will not be able to keep up anymore. They would have to literally dig down into the old, catalog of games from PS2 and PS1 and maybe PS3 era to be able to get anything close in terms of share numbers. But then you now have to look at value proposition of Game Pass, then dropping brand new games day one. And so when you think about even this Sega, aspect, I think it might be a more conservative launch where they start with older games, buy the new game, and then after a certain number of, months, you can then get a brand new game. Or like EA does with EA Pro, some games, you can get 10 hours of, 5 hours of, and so on and so forth. It's not just Sony and Microsoft who offer game subscriptions, as this article keeps writing. There are now countless players in the space, with rivals such as Nintendo, EA, Ubisoft, all offering their own membership plans. Currently, various Sega games are available across multiple streaming services. The amount of these services individually charged vary depending on features and games made available. For example, Game Pass price ranges from £6. Is that pounds sterling? Or yes, pounds sterling to £14.99 a month. While PlayStation Plus ranges from $6.99 to $13.49 a month in terms of pounds. So it will make financial sense for Sega, for people who are playing its titles, to pay its subscription fees rather than its rivals. It could also be attractive for people who mostly want to play Sega games, but for everyone else, it could result in higher costs. I think Xbox hedged itself, guys. I think they did. I always wondered, there's something about Game Pass that always kind of like struck me as weird. The games that always come and the games that always go. I remember always going like, man, what if somebody wanted to play this game and it just left, Well, I guess, if you wanted to play it and you saw it, then play it. If you don't want, if you still want to keep playing it after it leaves, you can buy it, right? And I always thought, if these games continue to pull away from Xbox, what would they have? And then they bought Bethesda. I was like, oh, they got a bunch of games. And then they bought Activision Blizzard King. Bam. Oh, they got a bunch of games. And then their own studios started to cook. And okay. So Xbox's output alone can now support Game Pass as a full-fledged, platform that you would not really even notice a lot of the games that are coming and the games that are going. That's the idea. That's the idea behind the Game Pass strategy that I think has tactfully beaten PlayStation in the first-party content delivery. This is what makes more sense now. Where PlayStation was saying strategically, if Activision games go into Game Pass, we're going to basically be in a place of greater dominance. And I think they were saying coupled with exclusivity. Remember that document I show you guys all the time? But they don't even need exclusivity because Game Pass is exclusive to the Xbox ecosystem. So already the only place you can exclusively play Activision games day and date with a small subscription fee is Game Pass. No other place are you capable of doing it. So if Sega showed up, Square Enix showed up, and everybody showed up and went and started their own subscription services, you would still be on Game Pass because of one specific thing, and that is you can get your games day and date from any Xbox studio on this platform, no questions asked. I don't know, guys. I think these guys understood where they understood their assignment, and they're coming in to execute on it. Simple as that. Talk to me in the comment section. Hopefully we can talk pretty soon in another one. Peace out.